All right, so the goal is pretty simple here, to be able to identify each question type in the TOEFL listening with ease. And we're going to look at a lot of examples to help you do that. It's a real headache to try to remember all these question types. It is really annoying. Uh, for me especially, I've been teaching this for a while and I still get confused. So I want to try to make it as simple as possible. You still might be a little bit confused by the end, that's okay, but you should be a little bit more, you should understand more. Let me give you a quick rundown of these question types. This is from our TOEFL Quick Guide. Just content, just purpose, detail, understand the speaker's attitude, understand the function, making inferences, understand organization, and connecting content. So you may see those question types and think, I kind of get what some of them mean. Some of them are a little confusing. So let's talk about that more. Rule number one, just content and just purpose questions always come first. These are always the first question after the passage, conversation, or lecture. Just content is the most popular. They're almost always asked about after lectures and about 50% of the time after conversations. And this always asks you, what is the professor mainly discussing? What is this about? It's a main idea question. It's always the first question. Sometimes you will have just purpose questions. These are asking you, why does the student go to the Career Center? This is usually in conversations, and it's asking you why the student went somewhere. That could be different than the main idea. So just purpose is asking you why the student went somewhere. Just content is asking you what does the professor talk about? What does the student talk about? So that's the big difference between the two, but they're always the first question. And that's it. You'll only get one question per passage that's either just content or just purpose. Look, already making your life easier, I hope. Number two, just purpose questions will ask why. So again, they will ask you, why does the student do this? Why does the student go to the Career Center? So pretty simple. What do the professor and student mainly discuss? That is a just content question. So just purpose will always come after conversations. Sometimes you'll get a just content question. What question? Like this. Sometimes you'll get a just purpose question with why. But in lectures, it's almost always just content. What is the lecture mainly about? All right, so as you can see, this is a just purpose question, and the one below is a just content question. I want to give you a lot of examples so you get an idea of what it looks like. Rule number three, detail questions are pretty straightforward and often use what. So when you see the word what, a lot of times it's a detail question. What does the professor say about shooting stars? According to the lecture, what is an example of the effects of climate change? This isn't always the case, but it's very common. Here you see where it begins with which. Which of the following is an indicator that you might suffer from sleep debt? Even though it begins with which, it is still a detail question. So detail questions are pretty straightforward. They're asking you about information that you heard. Again, what is professor mainly discussing? This is a what question, but in this situation, what type of question is it? Not a detail question. It's a just content question. Remember, number one, the first question is just content or just purpose, asking you about the main idea. So hopefully you caught that. All right, so here we see, what does the professor say about shooting stars? That is a detail question. Which of the following is an indicator that you might suffer from sleep debt? That is a detail question. What is the professor mainly discussing? So we see what, but in this situation, it's not a detail question, but just content. So just be aware of that. Rule number four, connecting content questions are often tables. Now this is where the information is going to get a little tricky. Rule number four and rule number five. Let's start with connecting content. A lot of times they look like this. Now, this is the part that always confused me with listening question types, is between connecting content and making inferences. After doing a lot of research, teaching this for a long time, this is my conclusion. I see no significant difference between connecting content and making inference questions outside of filling out a table. In other words, connecting content questions are a table. That's the only thing you have to worry about. Now, why do I say this? I don't say this because it's my assumption. I say this because these are the words from ETS, the company that makes the TOEFL. So this is from their book, from the TOEFL ETS book. And they show you the question wording of inference questions and connecting content. Notice the parts highlighted in red. What does the professor imply about X as an inference question? Look at that, connecting content, same exact question. What can be inferred about X? That's an inference. What can be inferred about X? Same exact question. So don't worry about, is it an inference question? Is it a connecting content question? Don't worry about that. If you see a table, it's connecting content. That's all you need to know. And that leads me to number 5, understanding the function, understanding the speaker's attitude, making inferences. They all ask you to infer, imply, or ask you why. So I was always confused about these question types. I never could tell the difference between an inference, speaker's attitude a little bit, but an inference, connecting content, and understanding the function. It was always confusing to me. So basically, bring them together. These are basically not asking you what you heard, but instead why the speaker said something. What do you think this means? They're asking you to infer or imply, to take a guess. They're not asking you what. For the TOEFL listening questions, the most important thing to consider is whether the information was stated directly, detail or just content, or if you have to make an inference, which is making inference, understanding the function, speaker's attitude. Don't worry about identifying the specific question type. That's the big secret here. Don't worry about the question types in the listening. All you have to worry about is that, is it asking you for a detail, a what, or is it asking you to make an inference? Why does the person say this? What does the person imply when they say this? What do you think they suggest here? That's all you have to worry about. What is the professor implying when she says this? Okay, that's probably a function question, but you don't have to worry. All you have to know is that you have to listen and you have to make an inference, a guess. What does the professor imply about the sister theory? Again, not something directly stated, but an inference that you're going to have to guess. Why does the professor say this? Probably a function question here. Don't have to worry about it. Just listen and then take a guess based on what you hear. What do you think the student is most likely to do next? Again, this is an inference question. You have to guess what the student will do based on the information. It's not stated directly. Again, why does the student go to the Career Center? Here we have a why question, but this isn't speaker's attitude or understand function. Do you remember what's this? Question number 1. This is a just purpose question. So this isn't always the case. Sometimes you'll see why, and it's not an inference or function, but a lot of times it is. Just keep that in mind. So here we have some examples. What is the professor implying? What do you think the student's going to do next? But be careful. Why does the student go to see the why does the student go to the Career Center? That's just purpose. So don't worry about the question types where it's understanding the function or speaker's attitude or making inferences. All you have to know is that you have to make an inference. You have to guess based on information that's not directly stated. Okay, pro tip here. Answer the question. Don't worry about identifying the question type by name. Don't worry about all that stuff. Just be sure that you can tell the difference between something directly stated and an inference. I said it 5 times already. I'm going to say it again. All you have to worry about is telling the difference between something that is directly stated and something where you have to make an inference. That's the most important thing. So those are the 5 rules. Just content, just purpose are always the first question. Just purpose, ask why. Detail questions are straightforward and often use what. Connecting content often uses tables. And there's not a significant difference, in my opinion, between understanding functions, speaker's attitude, and making inferences. Hope that's clear. I hope that made things easier. Visit tstprep.com so you can download a free and complete TOEFL test so you can actually practice this stuff and do some real listening. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found that helpful. And yep, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I never remember to do that. Hit the subscribe button. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.